afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Nicole Sienna, the host of today's webinar. Now, we spend a lot of time in mining talking about the usual headline commodities, but today we're taking a closer look at phosphate. Only about 5% of the world's P2O5 application is pure enough to be used as direct application raw rock phosphate, which is where Nevada Organic Phosphate is aiming to position its material. I'm joined by Robin Dow, Chairman and CEO of Nevada Organic Phosphate. Hi, Robin.
Good morning, Nicole.
Now, I'm going to hand it over to you so you can discuss the company's Murdock Mountain project in Nevada. There's some really good drill results we're going to touch on today, and we want to dive a little bit into how the direct application model for low contaminant phosphate can carve out a niche in the fertilizer supply chain. Now, for everyone who's joined us today, there is a chat function on the side of your screen. Drop in your questions as Robin's presenting. When I come back on screen, we'll dive into as many of those as we can. Okay, Robin, the floor is all yours.
It's interesting. This gives you a shot of what the drill site looks like in northeast Nevada. We are about half an hour's drive from the Utah border. Going north, we're very northeast corner. It's very dry and very mountainous. It's the terminus of Sierra Madres, and we're up at 4,500 feet where we're drilling on the side of a 6,500 foot mountain. So it's really quite barren. You've got pinyon trees and juniper trees, and that's about it. And you can see the Sierra Madres in the distance. That's half a day away, and our drill on the platform there. It's very simple. It's a Caterpillar-driven drill, and you can't see it in the background, but there's a water truck there to lubricate the drill. The water has to be trucked in. So it's a very simple operation, and it's easy for us to work. It's 1 day to drill, 1 day to move. The holes are not deep. And the quote on the side from John Kaiser simply points that the scale and stratiform nature of the phosphate beds in Leach Mountain Range, for which we're looking, has made lease applications such that they can be rapidly demonstrated by potential world-class long-lived supply of organic phosphate. Worth billions in the market, they may quickly price into the stock ahead of a biofertilizer major, and that's sort of where we're going. So that's a good start of an introduction. We were just listed as a critical mineral, and that makes it really important. There is no large-scale competition in North America, and in our research, there's really no organic phosphate stratiform sedimentary deposits really anywhere else in the world. Everything seems to be contaminated with heavy metals, and then has to be made into mono and diammonium phosphate. So there's no processing other regard than mining and bagging the ore. We've got 4 applications totaling 7,800 acres or 12.25 square miles. It's nearly flat-lying sedimentary phosphate, and the initial 1,813 acre permit that was granted last fall allows us to drill right through the whole 6 kilometers of strike. And in fact, based on the other 3 applications we have in, it could be in a total of 31 kilometers of strike, moving us from a potential of 10 to 46 million tons to a potential of 2 to 300 million tons or more. So it's a very large opportunity and needs to be paid attention. Now, why are we organic? It's very simple. It all is a result of an ancient ocean that covered 5 states, and you can see it here in green on the slide. And we're at the very western edge of the ocean. So as the ocean evaporated and contracted, all the heavy metals concentrated in the middle and then eventually precipitated out at depth. And that's why we have no heavy metals where we are at 4,500 feet above sea level, and very shallow holes. And where Idaho is in the middle of Idaho, is down 500 feet in its open pits. And that's why they have contaminated rock and we do not. All the heavy metals settle down into the sedimentary layer at the bottom of the ocean, which now is 500 feet below surface, whereas ours is 4,500 feet above surface, and really makes it quite reasonable to understand why. Now we've started out with what we say is Area A, the green line. Back in 82, 84, an American prospector went in and found this. Phosphate is a black rock, and Area A runs like a belt around the upper middle portion of the mountain. And when the prospector drove along Highway 233, which you can see just at the bottom of your slide, saw this band around the mountain and went up and took a look and started prospecting. Saw it was phosphate, got a backhoe, did a lot of trenching on the 6 kilometers, and then went away. The USGS came back in the early 90s, did some sampling, said, well, it's not 17% or better P2O5, so it doesn't qualify for acid. And as a result, none of the majors who make MAP and DAP decided to come along and take this on. It was simply a matter of it's acid or it's not. So when Gary Smith joined Paul Pittman and Marco and I on looking at this, we found that there was previous sampling by the USGS and 2 other major mining companies in the whole Leach Mountain project. And in fact, Gary was able to look at their sampling and see that it extended A through B, C, E, and then north to F, G, and far north H and I, all in the samples, all looking the same. So this is really a project with extreme extent, covering the whole mountain range, and is really a terrific project to be taking on at this time, because it's strictly an exploration play. And right now what we're doing is what we refer to as proof of concept. The first 6 holes that we drilled in area, or will be drilled, the first 6 holes we drilled in area A, let's go down a slide or 2. We're really on a click and a half of that first 6 clicks. And we drilled 6 holes because we ran out of time. The Bureau of Land Management didn't give us a drill permit until almost the end of October. And then we had to be off the mountain by the end of the second week in November because of the nature of the roadbed. It's not gravel, it's talc, like talcum powder. And when it gets wet, it gets soupy, and you can lose a truck in the quagmire. So by the end of the second week in November, we had to pull everybody off the mountain, and we're ready to go back in soon. So what we found in the 6 holes that we drilled is the concept that Gary laid out for us as chief scientist, was that the whole thing appeared to be contiguous and homogeneous. And really the development of the Meade Peak phosphate interval. And so he laid out the drill holes, and essentially the holes were anywhere from 105 to 125, 130 meters deep. Not very deep at all. It takes a day to drill and a day to move. And when we finally got everything done, we could really have a visual of what the Meade Peak formation looked like. And it's that pale blue line that you see on the schematic. And the pink part is red chert, it's limestone, and the dark gray above it is limestone or overburden. And so when we drilled through the Meade Peak, it was consistent. It was about 30 meters in thickness. And it was the top 4 to 5 meters that ran the 10 to 13% P2O5 that was our target interest. You only need 6, 7, 8% P2O5 for direct application phosphate on a farmer's field, because anything more than 8% will burn your crops. So even at higher levels, you have to blend it. So what we found is with 10 to 13% P2O5 in the first 6 holes, that it really proved that the whole thing, 1, was phosphate. It really was all phosphate. And 2, it was contiguous, it was continuous, and homogeneous. All the assays ran the same until we get to hole 6. And then in hole 6, we got a surprise. We found that there was another interval, another intersection of 4 meters of 17% at the bottom of the hole. So that's the top 4% at 10 to 13 and the bottom hole of 4 meters of 17%, which means that we can take the material in the middle of 2 to 3% NP05 and blend it when it's mined. So we expect those two intervals to be consistent now across the balance of the 6 kilometers we have to drill to complete Area A. And it's very exciting for us. You can see how the blue line runs up and over the mountain pass here. That's really a drainage ditch between the mountain peaks there. And where the highway goes and the roadway goes on the white line. And this continues on for the balance of the 6 kilometers of A. So we're really excited about this. And again, we're going to have a press release today, tomorrow, stating that we look to probably the 10th week of the 10th of March to be able to move a bulldozer in to grade the balance of the 6 kilometers and be on the ground drilling by the first week of April. Now that may change if there's some wind, some weather comes in this week and we get a snow dump up there. It could prolong the thing, probably taking us to the middle of March, end of March, before we can get up there. And then we're into early April, mid-April with the drilling. But no matter what, we're somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks away from being able to get at this. And that's a very exciting time for us to have, particularly since we see this are contiguous and it's organic. And it's really, really important to look at the organics in that it's consistent. We put out a press release this past week that ran through all the heavy metals, whether they're radioactive or non. We also went through all the helpful minerals like calcium, 26, 28%, or sulfur, that all help with the nature of how the phosphate reacts with the soils. And rock phosphate is different than other phosphates. The phosphate that Atafos and Simplon, Nutrien, Mosaic, and Monsanto produce are all from contaminated rock. So it has to be put through a process called beneficiation. So for every 5 tons of phosphate rock you process, you get 1 ton of pure phosphoric acid and 4 tons of phosphogypsum white waste. And that waste is radioactive, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you look at photos of Monsanto or Mosaic or Nutrien in Florida, you can see there are these piles of white phosphogypsum, several hundred feet high and several miles long, that are just sitting there, leaching radioactivity into the groundwater. And it's so bad that the Florida legislature before Christmas had to pass legislation to hold these companies harmless in face of litigation over the radioactivity that was leaching into the groundwater. It's a very serious problem. And the other problem that MAP and DAP, which is mono and diammonium phosphate, which is a blend of nitrogen ammonia and phosphate, is that when they put it in capsule form and put it on a farmer's field, it dissolves and runs off into the rivers and streams and lakes, and that's what causes the massive algae blooms. So apart from having radioactive waste they can do nothing with, and the pollution in lakes and rivers, there's tremendous environmental pressure coming out of Europe and many parts of the US and Canada to put an end to the spread of MAP and DAP on the farmer's field. And organic farming by nature, if you have organic farming growing organic fruits and vegetables, you have to have organic inputs. And right now, all they have is bone meal and manure. And the phosphate, the phosphate MAP and DAP that are produced worldwide, is worldwide traded commodity, probably 66 million tons a year, 70 million tons a year, are sold worldwide, with China, India being major consumers, and China major producer. And again, all your major producers in the US are MAP and DAP. And it's a serious problem for the environment. So we, I think, are going to get eventually a lot of press based on the fact that we are a salvation for the phosphate industry and organic farming going forward, because organic farming is growing leaps and bounds, not just in California, and there's a large organic farming group west of Reno, but also in southeastern U.S. through Carolinas and Georgia into northern Florida and westward into Alabama. That's probably almost the same size as California for organic farming. And they're growing. They need the product. If you're following American politics with Secretary Kennedy and his MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, they need organic fertilizer to grow organic fruits and vegetables. We're going to be a critical part of this. And it's going to make a large difference once people realize that we're the only opportunity they have of any consequence and size in the U.S. to have a domestic source of organic phosphate. And I think that's one of the prime movers behind the price of the stock this year as we continue to drill and grow the size of this from sort of 40 million tons to a potential 200 to 400 million tons, which is world class. It's just amazing opportunity for us, and we're stunned by the fact that we've actually been able to hold on to this for the last 14 years and now make it happen. So the next part of the next phase of where we're going is to one, get started drilling on the balance of the 6 kilometers of area A, and then apply and secure drilling permits for areas permit 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to do that by requesting that the BLM change its procedures. Before, when we were learning how to do this is a leasable mineral. Most things like gold, silver, and base metals are locatable according to Nevada law, which means you can stake them and drill them. But because phosphate, potash, and oil and gas are leasable, we had to do an environmental assessment of the whole 1,800 acres to start with. It cost us $500,000 in a year's time before we could even apply for the permit. It had to be done. So this time we're going to go back and say, look, the rules say if we're going to disturb less than 5 acres on a drill permit for, let's say, a 5 kilometer, 6 kilometer stretch like we're doing now, which means that you've got one bit drill pad, maybe 2 drill pads every kilometer, then we can get in under that wire and not have to worry about an environmental permit to prove concept. And why would we have to do a huge amount of environmental study of 1,800 acres before we even prove that there's something valuable there to do the EA for? So our whole purpose now is proof of concept to show that we have a real viable ore body developing here, and that it's contiguous, that it's all part of the same sedimentary layer, the Meade Peak phosphate formation that runs contiguously for 30 kilometers from the north, from the south end, where we are now, of the mountain range, the Leach Mountains, to the north end. And that's really an important concept to keep in mind, that we think we're going to be in the Meade Peak formation through the whole 30 kilometers at the same depth with the same contiguous 30 meters of Meade Peak formation in each hole. And if it's only 100, 120 meters, 130 meters to drill, that's 1 day's drilling, 1 day to move, 1 day drilling. We hope that we can drill the whole 30 kilometers between the beginning of April and the end of October, early November next year. It's a huge challenge, but we think we can do it if we get our permits early enough, and we're allowed to do it on a 5-acre disturbance basis. Then that's really an important deal for us, and I think will be reflected well in the stock. We had a very good program of releasing information as we got it in November, December, and January. And we topped out at 25 cents one day when we announced that, yes, we were organic. We proved it in the assays, and that we've been working through the market corrections ever since. We only did the first 3 holes in terms of organic sampling because that proved we were contiguous. All 3 holes were the same. And since all 6 drill holes were the same, there's no point doing expensive organic assaying across all 6. And we will not be doing every single hole going forward. If area B, we drill 6 to 8 holes, then we'd probably only assay 4, maybe 3, 4 organics. So we know what we're doing. We have a concept, and we're now proving it real. And we're moving forward to deliver to the shareholders, starting in about 3 to 4 weeks, a drill program that will go through the next 6 to 7 months. And we're 2 months early, going in April to drill when normally it's early June. So this year looks like a bonus year for us, and we're happy to keep that information rolling and to answer any questions that come during the week. You can email me your questions, and I'm at robin@dowgroup.ca, and I'm happy to reply usually within 12 to 24 hours. So Nicole, that's about the story we see so far. And I think that covers a lot of questions that you had. Is there anything you want me to add?
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of ground today. We do have a lot of questions coming in from the audience as well, so we'll get our way through those. First one here from Bob. Dry winter weather means drilling of 6 follow-on holes can start soon. Can you please provide
Yes.
details? And you kind of just did, but anything else you want to add?
No, we expect to have the bulldozer on the road because it's just a trail. We need to make it a road. So the dozer will go in there. It'll take 2 weeks to flatten out the road and make it even so that we can get our equipment up there, particularly the water truck, which is very large, and then get drilling. The bulldozer will also put in the pads, the drill pads, which aren't very large. It's like half an acre. And away we go, and we're drilling, and probably 2 to 2.5 holes a week sort of thing. Very, very quick, and a lot of news flow that hopefully is very positive and tells us that we're contiguous and homogeneous throughout the whole 6 kilometers, and God willing with the rest of it as well for the next 30.
Another question here from Robert. Have there been any talks with big producers like Nutrien
No.
or Monsanto?
No, they don't know we exist, right? Like, this is early days. This is a retail story. We don't have any mining analysts following it yet, although I think Venom has an analyst who's looking at us, and there's a couple of other places that we're getting to. We're getting mainly coverage by newsletter writers like John Kaiser and Chris Temple, who have a lot of good things to say about us. I highly recommend to you to look to the Kaiser newsletter that's posted on your website that goes through these things, or on our website. And we're constantly getting better coverage as people realize what the story is, that there is no other story like this. It's unique in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be happy to hear if there's any others, but there aren't. There was one that is out of Brazil called Aquila, but it turns out it's a carbonatite where the upper layer is phosphoric, but it's sort of rotted rock. And so they're able to scrape it down and bag it and sell it as organic phosphate. But again, that's not sedimentary, but it is clean. It is fertilizer, but again, there's 60 to 80 million tons, and where we think we'll be at 200, 400 million tons, significantly larger.
Right. Okay. A question here from Adam. How long will it take to acquire the next 7 outcrop beds approximately? And then he has 2 follow-up questions. How long will it take to obtain drilling permits? And what is the next catalyst? So take your pick.
Okay. Well, we should have the next 7 outcrops are the 7 strikes, the lengths that we have outlined in B, C, E, F, G, and H, I. And those drill permits will come together sometime in the next 6 weeks. So we should get them all at once, because we're making one application and one intervention with the BLM to explain to them what we're doing and why they need to take a look at adjusting their regulations for us. If for no other reason, we're a critical element, and phosphate is a critical mineral now for organic farming. If you want Maha, you need us, because we're the only answer. There is no substitute for what we have anywhere in the world.
Right. And no substitute for what you have. Roger has a question. How do we know how big the market for the product is? And he uses the example of Verde Agritech. He says it's an example of how difficult uptake can be. So what are your comments on that?
Well, all of Verde's green sand potash has been absorbed into Brazil. The problems they may have had in uptake relate to the regulations in Brazil. I don't see a problem here, because eventually this is mined. It's going to be mined like a coal seam, where you have one of these caterpillar crawler machines that goes underground, grinds down the face, goes out on a conveyor. We put it in a truck driven by a couple of good old boys who truck rock in Nevada for a living. Take it down 6 kilometers to Montello where the railhead is and the highway, grind it up into pebbles, put it into a 4-cube bag, forklift, pick it up, take it across the street, put it in a rail car, and ship it off. Whether you're going to the east or the west, the railway goes both ways, and it's wherever the demand is. But if we're the only organic phosphate, direct application phosphate in North America, it's going to be absorbed in the U.S., and the U.S. is going to make sure that it is. There's going to be no debate about that. The president has made that clear. And also, because he's gone to drill, baby, drill, and we are a prime example of how good that worked, because it shook up the BLM to the point that we could get things done quickly. When we finally got through to them and we had done the preliminary work, we cut through the morass of bureaucracy and got the head guys to focus on why we need it now, why we need to get drilling now. And we're going to take that forward into our next series of applications. And we're serious about this. The U.S. needs this. They need us. And I think we're going to become a very visible opportunity for the American people, Canadian people to invest in the future of organic farming in the U.S.
I was watching some of your past interviews. One of my favorite lines, I highlighted it, was dig it up, grind it up, and ship it out. So
Yes.
It's a good tagline for people to remember.
I used this from the very beginning. I said to people, don't make it more complex than it is.
Mhm.
We're going to break it up, dig it up, grind it up, bag it up, and ship it out. That's it. There's no blending. There's nothing that goes on. It's pure as it is. And again, it doesn't dissolve. You're putting rock on soil, right? So it breaks down, but it doesn't dissolve. It breaks down with the natural organic nature of the soil. And when it breaks down, it becomes soil in itself. So it's regenerative of used soil. And not only that, in that regenerative process, there's tremendous carbon capture. So you get a three-way with this, and it's very exciting. We're not concerned about what the end result is going to look like when it finally gets to be mined. That's going to require somebody with engineering expertise and, frankly, marketing expertise, because the market for phosphate potash is well established in the U.S. and Canada. And it's only a very limited number of companies who have the trap line to be able to market this east and west, north and south. Nutrien is one of them, Mosaic, Monsanto, Idefos, all have that. So if that's where we're going, then that's the way it has to flow.
Well, you do have a marketable story. I think it's so interesting.
Thank you.
A commodity we don't talk about often in the space. So one of my questions is, what does the market need to know, and what do you want investors to know about how to treat this clean story as bankable rather than promotional? Because there is that element to it as well.
Well, it's clean, and there's nothing relative about it. In other words, is this more clean than something else? No, it's clean, period. The numbers are there. We have in the press release last week, we have 4 charts that lay out the organic nature of it, the associated minerals that will make it better. And there are some rare earths involved, but they're not large in quantity to make this a rare earth play, but it's still there and it's still important to look at. So this whole thing is, we're clean and nobody else is. And I challenge anyone to find something of size and substance. There are smaller units around that might be, a couple of million tons, 10 million tons. I mean, but they're small mom and pop things that don't impact the market overall. So there's no real understanding of what this will price out at, what the value proposition is, because it's not going to be expensive to mine, right? You're just digging it up, breaking it up, grinding it up, bagging it up, and shipping it out right there on the railhead, east or west, doesn't matter. Railroad goes both ways. So, it's a simple story. And I think that the market is early stage in grasping this. I think John Kaiser really has a very solid understanding of what this means and where it's going and the organic nature of it in the organic market. And I suggest people to look at his material. There's really nobody else yet that's really this far along in understanding what the organic market is and how unique and special this story is. Um, I've done a lot of different things in my 35 years. I was a leader in uranium in '04 with Your Energy, URE, on the TSX. I started that at 10 cents in May of '04 and took it public on the TSX, the big board, at $1.25, November of '05. And 18 months later, it was $5.50. So this is another unique story with tremendous potential in an emerging organic market that has no other alternative but us, and a significantly environmentally threatened market with mono and diammonium phosphate. The Chinese don't care, but the Americans and Europeans do. And that'll make a difference to the impact and price and where we're going.
So you'd mentioned earlier that you're going to get a couple bonus months here with drilling happening in April, which is exciting
Yes.
for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Sam came in with a question here. What is cash burn and cash on hand with recent warrant exercises? And then he has a follow-up. What does the market need to see for the next rate and time for the next re-rate and timeline? Do you have any comments on that?
Very much so. We raised about $700,000 with the recent warrant exercise. We're sitting at about $1.3 million, $1.4 million in working capital. Our internal burn rate's $15,000 a month in overhead. That's it. I get a small salary. I get a part-time CFO, corporate secretary. They get half monthly, and the geologists get paid $100 an hour unless they're in the field, and then they're $1,000 a day US. And I've got a few other small people like my controller who's $2,500 a month. So it's a very low limited burn rate. Our view is we're shareholders. I make sure that everybody on my team of 5 have lots of stock options and lots of stock. I prefer bonus stock as opposed to bonus cash. Conserve the cash, put it in the ground, and make this thing happen. I'm dedicated to my shareholders and their interests, and that's what's driving where we're going. We're going to need more money sometime in March to get on with the drilling, probably another $2 to $3 million. But I've got some other warrants outstanding there that we could get exercised beforehand to do that. If not, I can do a quick small placement. I've got a lot of reach into U.S. Institutions who are looking for us to do a placement. I don't want to do it here at 15 cents, rather 25 or 30 cents. And I think we'll see that once we start drilling, because that's going to drive it. And I can probably get through drilling 2 or 3 holes with the cash I have, maybe 4 or 5. And, it's all going to be dependent on the drill. And that's the way it should be. We're success driven, and we're driven to make money for our shareholders.
Right. Okay. So your drill data points to roughly 10 to 11% of P2O5 across multiple holes. We emphasized hole 6, where the number was around 17%.
And a lower intersection.
A lower intersection.
Going forward, you have 2 intersections, total of 8 meters.
So Harvey has the question, and I'm sure you'll have a great response to this. How many drill holes do you need to support, quote, proof of concept?
Well, the first 6 did that.
Right.
It's done. In terms of the original, we had to prove it was phosphate. Then we had to prove it's organic, and we've done that. The only other question extant is, how big is it? And it's potential 30 kilometers. So it's going to take, I think, we'll finish the next 6 holes.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we're into B and C, and we can see that this extends out into area B, area C, area E, then we have great confidence from there that it'll continue on through the north, through FG, H, and I, and other ancillary opportunities. But again, it's sedimentary, so it should be contiguous, homogeneous, and it is. So it's removed a lot of the guesswork going forward. We know what to look for.
John has a question here. You stated in the presentation that you may be able to drill out the entire project by October or November of next year. Are you saying that you'll understand the full scope of the entire mineral endowment by November of 2027?
I would hope that's 26, not 27.
26, sorry, yep.
Okay. We hope that we'll be substantially on the way to completion of PEA and a 43-101 resource by that time.
Okay. Ravi with a question. Could you envision this organic fertilizer being sold to other places other than California? And you and I were kind of chatting about that offline too.
Oh, certainly. There's anywhere there's organic farming, there's opportunity to sell organic phosphate. The demand will be infinite once this thing is up and fully developed, and we've got a 43-101. We know what the size is. Then I think that it will indicate to the majors what kind of opportunity it is. It's going to take them a while to wake up. Like Nutrien, I called them a year and a half ago and I said, hey, we've got a organic phosphate project here in Nevada. He said, what, phosphate? We don't want any more phosphate liability. Click. Well, listen, that's silly. You didn't bother to hear that it's organic.
Mm-hmm.
They just heard phosphate because it's a huge liability they don't want. So we'll see who grasps the nettle and understands the opportunity.
Okay, Roger, here the question. Are there any risks or which risks are keeping you up at night?
I sleep pretty well at night after the first 3 holes. Once it came in organic, that was it. I've slept real well since that time because I know this is going to be consistent across all 30 kilometers. It's just what keeps me awake, the BLM. Do I get all my permits that I need initially, or do I get them sort of the permit for BCE, then the permit for C&D, and then FGHI in sequence as we go? That's okay. I prefer to have them now to get through the BLM and say it's done, so that we're not looking for any favors, that sort of thing. The other thing we're doing is we have consultants in Nevada that we're working with who are very well connected into the BLM and the Nevada Department of Wildlife and NDOW to help us through the process. And then we're also working politically to get this in front of Joe Lombardo, the governor of Nevada, who's up for re-election this year. And he used to be a sheriff in the south of Nevada. He's very popular, both Republican and Democrat. And he doesn't have much exposure in the north. So we hope that by showing, hey, drill baby drill worked, and look at what we've done under your watch in northeast Nevada, and we're going to continue to build this for Nevada. And while eventually it may not be a large employer, it will certainly provide a large tax base in the future. And also you've got the organic farming west of Reno, and to have organic fertilizer, organic farming in the same state, just down the road, is an amazing story to be able to tell. And we hope that we can get this in front of the governor to help him talk about it while he's on the road. And of course, whatever he says about us is a blessing.
A question here from Sam. Proceeds from recent warrant and acceleration exercise, estimated cost of upcoming drilling in 2026.
Well, the proceeds were 720 some odd thousand, which was pretty much 100% of what we expected. And the drilling costs, scary estimates, maybe 3 million Canadian all in. But that's mainly just for the extension of 6. The next 6 holes on Area A. I think we have to drill those to understand what the drill is for the balance of them. But if you're looking at 100 to 150,000 US per hole, then 30 holes is $4.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm good at raising money. I've been able to raise it since we got our first money in 23 in April when we listed, and I've been able to keep the company afloat ever since by raising small money. And really, the only thing that surprised me was in October last year, I went to raise $1 million and got the issue ready, and I was out there, and gold went through 5,000, and suddenly I got hit with 2.2 million in offers, and I had to take them. Wasn't going to embarrass myself by turning money down. But that gave us a dilution situation that we're coming into now, where there's another 35, 40 million warrants outstanding at a dime with a 25-cent force that I would expect to start to see exercise through the end of March, early April, as the stock climbs based on the results from the drilling that we have. Everything is results driven. There's no Hail Marys here. It's all hard work. and get out there and drill for glory.
Another question here from the audience. If the BLM requires additional environmental studies before issuing the drilling permits, what would be the estimated time to complete the studies and a guesstimate on cost?
Well, the cost would be another $500,000 in another year, and we're not going to tolerate it. Simple. It's not going to happen.
Easy answer.
Yeah, it's just no. There's no way. We've already proved what we've got, and we've proved we've got a discovery, and we proved that it works, and we proved that we're environmentally friendly, that we actually were able to recover, to reclaim all 6 drill pads before we left the mountain in November. We were very good economically, we were very environmentally, and we're very good about the surveys and the sage grouse and anything else that's out there. And there are really no birds that we foresee in the next 6 kilometers. So we think that this will be a simple process of getting those drill permits. It'll be like jumping through hoops, that this time will be easier if we can get them to focus on the 5 acre per kilometer, 2 kilometer, 3 kilometer drill pad assessments. Then that's an easy one that we can carry through. And frankly, we've got the attention of the upper levels of the BLM. And if we can get the governor involved, of course, he has a very good friend in the ex-governor of North Dakota, a fellow named Burgum, who's now the Secretary of the Interior in charge of the BLM. And if Joe needs to make a call to Dougie Baby, he may just do that. And you never know what might come.
Okay, we're just about out of time here. I do want to give you a second. Is there anything else that you want to add? Anything you want investors to know?
Now's the day and now's the hour. The stock's 15 cents. Go for it. You can buy stock. It trades well. As a matter of fact, at the opening this morning, we were getting more trade in the OTCQB than we were into the CSE. So that's valuable. And the other thing is now the CSE bought the Australia Stock Exchange. So there's real opportunity for investors in Australia to be able to buy stock on the CSE. And we're working with mining.au to get our message down under. And we think that we're going to have a very active retail market as we build towards an institutional market as we get more mining analysts involved over time. It's a simple story. Don't make it more difficult than it is. Dig it up, break it up, grind it up, bag it up, ship it out.
There we go. Dig it up, grind it up, ship it out. My favorite tagline. Okay, Robin, thanks for joining me today. That's it for today's webinar, everybody. If you have any questions, head over to the website. There's a contact page there. Robin's an easy guy to get a hold of. And if you want the replay, it will be available soon. So just stay tuned for that. Thank you for joining us live. And if you watched on the replay, thanks for being here. I am Nicole, and we'll see you soon.